Over the weekend, Jewish communities across the world will have come together to celebrate Rosh Hashanah, a New Year celebration that is characterised by delectable food and traditions that span generations. My current morning routine involves making a strong cup of Yorkshire tea and opening Nigella Lawson's newsletter, which contains a recipe recommendation, whether her own or by someone she admires, which drops into my inbox every day. Her recommendations are reliable and cosy, much like her food writing. Last week, I was intrigued when her recipe recommendation, in honour of the Jewish holiday, was her celebrated honey cake. Made with dates, apples and oranges, and mixed into a smooth batter using flour and ground almonds. This is a slightly different baking process than I'm used to. This recipe is made up of 3 core parts, which we'll take a look at now. The apples, which are chopped into 1 centimetre chunks, before steeping slowly in orange juice and zest, before adding the sticky dates that have been roughly chopped. The wet ingredients, made up of oil, honey, sugar and eggs, are then added to the fruit in the pan before mixing with the dry ingredients. The combination of these ingredients makes for a fairly easy recipe and enjoyable contrast to the creaming, beating, folding routine of some other bakes I'm used to. Nigella's honey cake uses olive oil instead of butter to offset the sweetness of the indulgent amount of honey and muscovado sugar, and to keep with requirements of kosher bakers. Apart from the initial chopping, I found the recipe relatively hands-off, as I left most of the work to the small flame underneath my saucepan. Just as I was about to lift my cake into the oven, I realised I accidentally omitted a non-crucial ingredient that I think would have added a crucial variation to the texture of the cake. I left I left out the walnuts, despite onerously breaking the halves into smaller chunks, ready to add with the dry ingredients. It hasn't impacted the structure of the cake all too much, but I would have liked the extra nutty decadence. After being baked in a springform tin for 45 minutes, the cake has a firm top that, according to Nigella, will stop it from sinking as it cools, and I can add the sticky orange honey glaze to the top, which gives the cake its gorgeous twinkling shine. On cutting, the cake's cross-section is squidgy and studded with apple chunks, which are soft and sticky and complemented by the mellow sweetness of the honey. It becomes quickly obvious that this is a celebration cake that benefits from quality ingredients. My dates should have been medjool, my honey should have been expensive local fare, and my apples and oranges should have been large and fresh from the greengrocers. While not celebrating Rosh Hashanah myself, it is soothing to bring to mind the Ashkenazi traditions of eating apples dipped in honey in the hope of a new year full of sweetness as I take a bite of this cake. Nigella has managed to successfully capture the traditions from her heritage while satisfying the indulgences of bakers. I was also soothed baking this cake on a drizzly evening in London, when it is becoming ever clearer that the nights are getting longer and the burnt orange leaves are falling. The warm apple and orange scent dominated in my kitchen, which is really something that you can't buy in a bottle. I really would recommend trying this recipe, if only for the internal warmth the methodical chopping and steeping of seasonal fruit brings to the soul. Nigella recommends eating a slice just warm from the oven. I did this on the day that I made it and was a little disappointed that the flavours didn't jump out to me and that the glaze wasn't quite sweet enough. This evening I had the flat to myself and I embraced the seasonal change that Rosh Hashanah seemed to have rung in. I put on a new drama on iPlayer, lit my favourite White Company candle, brewed a milky cup of tea and cut myself a slice of honey cake. I finally understand the joy of this cake. As with most recipes more complex than just flour, sugar, butter and eggs, the flavours were allowed to amalgamate overnight, which brings out its truly unique flavour. The first time I tried it, the dominant flavours were sweet, almost caramel dates. Tonight, each component was allowed its time in the sun, but the true hero was the honey, and I could have just skimmed the top 3 centimetres off the whole cake to eat up all the crumbs infused with that honey glaze. If you can possibly resist, don't eat this cake on the same day it is made. When cooled, cover it and come back to it the next day. Next week, I'll be attending a friend's engagement party and I'm planning to take over some treats, as well as attempting my first sourdough loaf with my burgeoning starter. If you'd like to join me, do hit that subscribe button, and like if you'd like to. I'd love to hear your thoughts on which recipes you'd like me to try next. Goodbye for now.